Hi there, my name is Pat Fader. I'm an instructor at Milwaukee Area Technical College, and I want to run through and create a basic network diagram for our capstone project course. So essentially students are given a scenario, and I'd like them to draw a network diagram that represents what they're going to implement in the capstone project, kind of, or at least close to it. So if you're in one of my classes, you're responsible for implementing a client and the two domain controllers. You're obviously not going to implement the physical server that those virtual machines are running on, but I still have you include that in your network diagram. So I'm going to draw something like this. We're going to use Visio. If I look at the capstone project requirements, we see that I'd like your network diagram to include a client, two domain controllers, machine name, domain names, the roles of the machines, IP information. I think that's about it. The physical specs of your server as well. Refer to section 4 of your diagram of your project to see what that is or what those are. So let's get started. I have Visio already launched. It's Visio 2016. That's what we have running in our labs right now. And Visio is incredibly powerful. They have a lot of templates for creating everything from network diagrams to floor plans for your house to whatever. So Visio seems to be used really in industry as like the standard for creating network diagrams. So I thought, why not have you use that for our capstone project? When I selected to create a basic network diagram, what that does is that just kind of preloads the basic shapes that we can use. We can always use other shapes from other libraries, but I thought for this one activity, I'll just start with the basic network diagram. If I wanted to, I could start with a template type shape network diagram. I could use that if I wanted to, and then just delete off what I don't want. Maybe I'll do that this time. So let's see here. Our network diagram, if I just toggle back to the capstone project, is going to contain two domain controllers, a client, and the physical server. Actually, pretty much everything that I have on here I'm going to redraw into my network diagram, but I'll just include my implementation specific information on the diagram. So here we go. One thing about Visio, maybe I'll get sidetracked a little bit on this, is when you're looking for shapes, when you want to add a shape to your diagram, if you find something that you want, you just grab it and drag it in. On these, if we look at the shapes that I currently have available to us, I mean, I can add everything from network shapes, and here in my current library, if I want to display Active Directory objects, I can display that in my shapes pane here. Network symbols, rack-mounted servers. It goes on and on and on and on. Servers. So there's all kinds of shapes that we can add. Quick shapes. What that does is that pretty much takes the most common shapes from each of our shape libraries here, for lack of a better term, and puts them in a single pane. So I think, look under network symbols here. I think a lot of what I need can be found in this network and peripherals shapes library. I'm going to want a computer, a switch, firewall I already have. That kind of came in our diagram. Let's see here. I wouldn't mind a couple computers too, and like a tablet type device. If you can't find what you're looking for, you can always in the search area here, just type in like PC. All right, good. Use some of those. Looks like I already had those. Maybe a tablet too. All right. Good enough. Actually, I kind of like this more. All right. So it's time to start moving these devices around and setting things up, and I'll try to cover the topics that are pertinent to creating your own network diagram. When you're working in Visio, you have to select, are you going to point at something, or are you going to connect devices together, or are you going to put text in? In our case, we'll start with this pointer tool, and oops. Start with our pointer tool first, and I'll start selecting things that I want to get rid of. Don't need a router, don't need a printer, don't need this firewall. I kind of like this. We'll use this as our server. Right? I guess I don't have much left, do I? So well, before I go too far into this, this is just kind of a cool thing. I'll get sidetracked for a bit. You know, since Visio is used by so many, is pretty much the standard in creating network diagrams in our industry, a lot of vendors create their own stencils, you know, little pre-configured shapes for their products that you can download and use. So just before I hit the record button here, I just Googled Cisco stencils, and I downloaded a stencil for the Cisco Catalyst 9000 switches. So if I add that to our list of stencils here, it's just kind of cool. Like, so I could drag in a specific switch, and it's drawn like, I mean, it's exactly what you'd see on the back or the front of the switch or the module. So if you wanted to make a network diagram with the exact components that you have in your environment, you could do that, and you could actually, you know, then obviously connect, you know, show the exact connections of where, how your devices are connected together. There's even like a rack on some of these stencils here. Let's see. Yep, can throw a rack in there, and we could rack mount all of our devices. So anyways, we're getting sidetracked, right? That's just something kind of cool. It's just with Visio. So let's draw the network diagram. I have a couple servers that I want to. I have a couple domain controllers. So notice when I'm bringing some devices in, like, you get these lines to show you how they're all lined up exactly the way you want them to. So I'm going to have two virtual servers and a physical server. I kind of, if I look at, if I just jump over to the design tab, there's like different themes, and then within each of those themes there's variants. Just kind of affect the way the things are drawn a little bit. I mean, some students kind of like the old let's make it look like a cartoon. That's just pushing me way outside my comfort zone, so I'll just stay with something that's more conservative. So here we go. This is the color scheme that I'll use for our network diagram. I can change the color of devices if I want to, so I have this. Well, let's just back up here. So I have my two domain controllers here, and I'm not going to do this completely, but I'm going to want to indicate the machine names, IP addresses, etc. that I had we talked about previously in the capstone project. So I'm going to move from the pointer tool to the text tool and add some text. All right. So, and then this is kind of like using Microsoft Word. I have my text left justified, and let's move my text to the top of the text box here. So my machine name will be DC1, and I guess I could put the domain name in if I wanted to. My IP address, and I'm making it up now. 192. You know what? Maybe I don't have to make it up. What if I just actually did it like the project has? So right there, 20.101. Perfect. 192.168.20.101. Let's go back to my pointer tool and stretch that box out a little bit. I suppose I could make the font a bit smaller here too. All right. So that's our IP address. We'll use a 24-bit subnet mask. DNS. I know for our domain controller, it's going to point back to itself. So that would be 127.0.0.1. All right, I can't do the whole network diagram, but I think you get the idea. You know, this is a domain controller. I'll just put an AD here under roles. How about like this? This is going to be a domain controller, up DC. It'll be DHCP and DNS. Perfect. I can select both of these and do like a shortcut, you know, a Control C and a Control V for a copy and a paste. Select those two, and you could use your arrow keys to move things around as well once they're selected. This machine name is, right, address is 102, DC2, and I think for, I don't know, eventually this will become a domain controller and have DNS on it, but how about for now I'll just say it's a member server. Worry about the rest later. All right. You can select multiple objects and align them. So if they weren't lined up, now they are. You can also take objects and group. Once you know that you've kind of got the objects the way you want them and you're not going to want to edit or move them around with respect to each other, you can select them all. You can right click and you can group them. All right, so now when you grab them and you move them around, they keep that positioning. You also can select your objects and add them to a container. And that just, you can see what it does. It actually, it kind of draws something around them. So, and these are our VMs. Good enough. This is going to be our physical server. I feel like getting crazy and changing the color of our VMs to something different. There we go. I'm not that crazy. There. Looks like I have some work to do there we go. Okay. All right, it's not perfect, but it's better than it was. All right. So I have our machine set up. I've indicated that they're virtual machines. I'm going to draw just some kind of line here. So I selected our connector tool, which is used for connecting objects together in Visio, and there's sometimes objects have multiple connection points. If you notice as I'm moving this around, I've got one connection point in the middle, and I've got one that around the outside. These ones around the outside, I forget the correct term, but they're like a dynamic connection point. So I just hold my button down, draw my mouse over here. That's kind of like if I ever go to move this object, it'll just, the connection point just kind of floats around the object, which, you know, makes whatever makes the most sense. So this is going to kind of bug me. I'll fix it now. I just drew this line here, and it's got an arrow on the end. Well, it's not. I don't really need an arrow, so I can select that, and I've chose it. I can go under line here, and I can just go under arrows and say none. All right. I'm kind of ripping through this. Obviously, there's just a lot here. We're not going to be able to cover it all. So these are our VMs, and I figure most of you are IT. You don't mind playing around trying to figure out features and products or whatnot. So this is our physical server. So according to the Capstone project, I told you that somewhere in our network diagram area here, you need to include the physical specs of your server. Go to section 4 for that. So 12 cores per processor, dual processors. So let's put that in our network diagram. So I'll create another text box here. Oops. So make this our, let's go to 10-point font here as well. All right, 12 core processor, dual processors. Oh, that's good enough. Good. Also, what I should do, and I'm not going to do it right now, is it wouldn't hurt, like if this is an actual implementation, to put the like maybe put the OS at server 2019 or 2016 and indicate that this box is running Hyper-V for virtualization. I could put the machine's IP address and machine name as well, but in the Capstone project, we just kind of ignore this machine, and really all that you're implementing are the 2 VMs and the client. So far I've drawn our VMs, I've drawn our physical server. We will have a switch here. So let's use our connector tool to connect our physical server to the switch. There's actually, like, it's up to you how much you want to include here. And technically we would have, like, oh boy, I'm having a hard time with this. Sometimes it's kind of hard to fight this connector tool. And also these rounded corners, well, I can live with those too. But we actually would have at least, let's see here. We would have, if we actually implemented this, we'd have two connections going to our, so we'd have 2 NICs dedicated for our VMs, and like another NIC or dedicated for managing the host, like the Hyper-V part of it, if you want to think of it that way. I know you've talked about that in your VMware class. I had that indicated in our diagram here as well. So I can draw that or not. Maybe I will today, because I'm just feeling like this being an overachiever here. Let's go back to our connector tool. Okay, so I've drawn 2 lines here. Now I have to somehow, I guess I could draw a 3rd line. There we go. So I've got two connection points that are going to be for our VMs, and another one for host management, and I should label that as well. Could even change the color on that. Select it, make that red. Alright, so I have to label it, I can just double click the line. And I could just say, we would typically use VLANs, right, to separate your different types of traffic. So VLAN 0. Host management. Abbreviate it. 192.168. Okay, here's where my IP scheme, I just kind of making things up as we go, right? Good. All right, did it. I clicked on this connection here, and if you notice, there's like a little yellow line, or yellow dot rather. I can grab that, and I can move that if I want to reposition my text. So I've got VLAN 0. Now I have to do something with these 2 connectors as well. I think in my diagram, what I did was, let's see if I can find it now. Oh, under stencils, and we can just go under more shapes. They actually have under Visio extras some like connectors or callouts. This will work. So you just grab it and drag it in here. When I worked as an engineer, I never wanted to have lines that crossed over each other. So trying to think of some way to, I think what I did before is I just, under shapes here, search, and I don't claim to be I don't claim to know Visio really well. What I'm just trying to do now is show that those two lines, that these are two network connections here, go together. Like that. Ay, ay, ay. One more time. Boy, oh boy. Here we go. This is like one of those moments I feel like just pausing the video and getting it the way I want it and starting it up again. Maybe I won't be able to get it in there. Here, I'm going to pause the video so I can get this the way I want it. Alright, so what I did was I deleted these two connectors. I put the oval where I wanted it, and then I redrew my connectors going through the oval. And I could add this text here, you know, VLAN. I'm not claiming this information is all correct at this point. VLAN 2, 192.168.2.0/24. Alright. Okay, so obviously the capstone project, you're not really implementing multiple VLANs. You're implementing a single network. So your implementation is going to really look just like this. Right now we're just drawing a network diagram that incorporates kind of what you're implementing plus what the actual implementation would be if this was something that happened in the real world. Okay, we're almost done. Suppose I could try redrawing this now if I wanted to, or not. Nope. Put it back where we found it. There. Good enough. Oh, perfect. All right. So we have our two VMs. We've got our physical machine. We've got some of our VLANs implemented. We want to connect our wireless access point into our network there. I guess I don't really need a firewall. I mean, if I wanted to put one in, I could, right? I could. Oops. A lot of times I forget to pick the pointer tool and I just start moving things around. I want to shift all my content on my network diagram down a bit, so I'll just do a Control A, which is the shortcut, you know, for select all, and we can move it down a little bit. Okay, good. I could also rescale everything if I'm drawing everything. I'm like, oh, I'm running out of space. Once I've selected everything, I can just kind of grab it and shrink it if I want to, which, you know, scales all your objects down. All right, so if I really wanted to, we could draw firewall, and we could go to a cloud. Drag it in, and then resize it. All right. Oops. Pointer tool. Good. Okay. It's not terrible. I'm not going to lie that having these multiple lines not all following each other is kind of bugging me. Sometimes I've given up on the whole connector tool. And what I'll do is I'll just actually draw a line instead. I just kind of draw. Oops. Let me try it again. One more time. I'm not sure why it's not. There we go. Why is that going to do it? I'm not sure why I can't see my line that I just drew. Works there. There. Okay, I drew it. I could change the color of it if I wanted to make it match everything else. And I'd have to add a text box if I wanted to, to draw the include the VLAN information. So I could do something like this: text. Put a text box there, paste it in. There. There we go. A little better. Well, whatever. It's close enough, right? So I still have to include our mobile devices and our PCs. So as far as the PC goes, I could just we could put them right here. That might be enough. Put our mobile devices here also. Control C, Control V. Oops. Okay, have a few of those. I can pick multiple devices, and I can just, under this align here, align the left. Well, let's see here. They're all messed up now. There we go. There you go. Auto align. Still looks messed up. There. Perfect. All right, so let's see here. I think I'm gonna take these PCs here, and I'm going to right click and add them to a container. PCs. I've got 20 of them. Okay. And then if I wanted to, and down here it would make sense, I could throw a text box in there again, and I could put the IP information in there. So you would add IP information. We'd add, I guess DNS is part of the IP information. I think that's about it. Client computers, IP, 192.168.3. Or how about 3.0? Maybe we'd have a separate VLAN for our computers. And the DNS should be the IP address of our domain controller. I suppose depending on how often you want to keep updating your network diagram, I could put the OS that we're currently running on there. Although client computers seem to change so often, I think I'd be a bit nervous to do that. It's not terrible. Go back to my pointer tool. All right. We'll connect that into our switch. Good. And then I'd have to do a similar thing for our iPads too. All right. We select all those, and we'll scoot it down a little bit. And rinse and repeat here. We'll just select them, and we'll group them. Put them in a container. Good enough. Mobile devices. It's kind of weird. I almost could add all the IP information to our access point because that's where the devices are getting their information from. All right, and then put all the IP information in that our AP is going to assign. Let's see if I can select this again. Okay. Oops. Good. So that was kind of a half-hour quick, run through using Visio. I'm just looking over to see if there's anything else I want to cover with this. All right, just a few more things here. If you want to, if you're creating a network diagram under design, you can add a title to it. And when you add a title, it actually adds another page to your Visio diagram, kind of like in Excel. You can have a single spreadsheet, and you have a single Excel file with multiple sheets. Well, I have a Visio file here that has multiple pages. So our background page lets you put a name in and whatever else you want to put on here. Good. And when it comes to how do you get this into your capstone project, you have a couple ways of doing it. One way would be just to grab the content that you want, copy, and try pasting it in. That would work. That would work in a Word document. Boy, I haven't checked to see if that would work in a Google Doc. Let's try that right here. Just curious. Well, there you go. Copy paste. It's in your diagram, in your capstone project. So you would just add your network diagram to where we have the highlighting. Here. I did, obviously I did include some sample diagrams as well. So that was the main thing I wanted to show you. You could actually, when it comes to saving it, you can save it in different formats. No surprise there. We'll save it to our documents folder here. But you can go to Visio, or if you want to store it in something like a GIF or a PNG file for just to save it as an image, you could do that as well. And so I just saved it. If we look under our documents, ta-da, there it is. So nothing too exciting there. Well, good. I hope you have fun using Visio. There is just an incredible amount of diagram. There's incredible. You can do a lot with Visio. It's amazing how powerful of a tool it is. I just, I just barely scratched the surface with this quick screencast. And if you just Google sometime like Visio network diagrams, let's go to images. It's pretty crazy what some people have created with Visio. A lot of these images are people selling their services to create network diagrams. But now you can do that, right? In this diagram here, this table of contents, or this I don't show you a table of contents. It's a shoot. I'm forgetting the word, but this little it's going to bother me. Well, it's not a table, but I'll call it a table that pretty much maps your symbols to what they are in your diagram. That can be auto-generated, and I forgot how to do that right now, but I guess that's what Google is for. So 35 minutes, we've covered the basics of Visio. I hope this is helpful, and I hope you enjoy working with this tool this semester. And I hope you use it on the job as well. Definitely can make you look good at a company, as well as I feel a lot of times that on the job, many times you're preparing, you're setting up the person to follow you to have at least a fighting chance of maintaining your environment. So a good network diagram was a great place to start. Thanks. Have a great day.